What's up, guys? It's Crash. So Battlefield actually just tweeted out another Battlefield bulletin, and this actually answers some really burning questions that we've had since the reveal. This is a blog post where they talk to DICE employees and developers. And honestly, I skimmed over, but I think it would be best if we just look at this thing together, talk about what is in here, and get you guys filled in. So essentially, this looks at specialist maps, vehicles, and AI soldiers, and that they're moving the technical playtest to later this summer, and how it gives a lot of details about where crossplay and cross-gen is at right now. And I'm a little concerned as to why they're just now testing out crossplay when this game should have been in development for about 3 years. That's beside the point. Let's talk about what is in this article, guys. So let's jump in. I think I got my scene set up pretty good. I made my head smaller. I wish I could do that in real life. Haha. But anyway, made my head smaller so you guys can see what's up, and let's take a look at it. They talk about specialists here, again reiterating that there will be 10 specialists so far. You can expect further details on the remaining 6 later this year. I would sure hope so, because the game releases later this year and they will be in there, so I think that makes a lot of sense. How do specialties and traits work? Specialties and traits, excuse me. So you have a specialist with a wingsuit is their specialty, and it can't be used by any other specialist. As for traits, let's take a look at Falk, equipped with the combat surgeon trait. So Falk revives allies to full health. This gives her an advantage over players using squad revive. So we have 100% confirmation that squad revive is coming to Battlefield 2042. Squad revive takes longer and does not bring players back to full health. So I think this is awesome. Squad revive in Battlefield 5 is actually really nice, and it definitely promotes squad play, cohesion, and people to, you know, kind of stick together. How do customized loadouts work? This is also really good information, because this spells out what we are able to equip on our soldiers. So you'll have a primary weapon, and then equipment, which can be an item that anyone can use, such as medical crate or supply crate. So it doesn't matter what specialist you are, you can bring a medical crate or a supply crate. I also believe later on we'll take a look for sure, but later on it tells us this is also where the explosive like the launchers, missile launchers go. So you kind of have to decide if you want to take out vehicles, if you want to use a medical crate or a supply crate. So even though there aren't the 4 normal roles that we're used to, it looks like they're kind of making that a thing with this equipment slot. So then you have a secondary weapon, and then the throwable, such as a frag or an incendiary grenade. So here's what's customized, or here's what's a customized loadout could look like. You could have a primary weapon, your M5, A3 assault rifle. For equipment, you could have a supply crate, secondary weapon. I can't talk today. I need more coffee. Secondary weapon, a G57 sidearm, and then your throwable as a frag grenade. And then, as with all specialists, McKay's specialty and trait are unique to him and cannot be changed. So when you pick a specialist, that specialty and that trait are locked in. His is a grappling hook, and his trait is nimble. Now, one of the burning questions a lot of us have had is, will all players have RPGs, SRAs, and SMAs? I just say it like that because I think it's fun. In this little bit, long story short, they say that fits in the equipment slot, so you kind of have to decide. Choosing more explosive approach for your equipment slot would mean that you won't be able to carry a medical crate or a supply crate. So we've been wondering how they're going to balance that. That is apparently how they're going to do that. You can play a more of a support role, or you can play an anti-vehicle role, essentially like past Battlefields. You're kind of picking your traditional role with that equipment slot, in my opinion. Can squads use any combination of specialists? Squads will consist of maximum 4 players. That's what we suspected based on the gameplay trailer, but there it is, 100% 4 players. And Conquest Breakthrough squads can contain more than 1 unique specialist. So you guys, you're not going to be limited by there can only be 1 McKay in the squad. There can be multiple ones. You can play any specialist that you want. How can you differentiate between specialists on your own and enemy team? A series of icons highlighting your team: blue, squad green. We saw those dots in the gameplay trailer. They will make their return, and also help you differentiate between a friendly combat enemy. There are also other options and systems we're still testing that will assist you in distinguishing enemy players on the field. I think that's important. If specialists are going to be the same, there needs to be something. I remember back in, I believe it was Black Ops 3, enemy players had red highlights on their uniform. No matter what skin they chose, they still had those red highlights, how you knew it was one right away. One last note on customization: there will be plenty of options available to you in the form of skins, which can alter your appearance and allow you to choose how you'd like your specialists to stand out on the battlefield. The same two specialists can look vastly different when wearing different skins. So we saw a little bit of that also in the trailer. Some of the same specialists look completely different. So now we're talking about Ranger, which is the robo dog. Mine's not named Ranger, mine is named Greg, and we can confirm that he is neither a specialty nor a trait, but he is essentially like a vehicle. So you use that call-in system with the tablet where we saw in the gameplay trailer the tank dropped in. It looks like that is the same with the robo dog. So you're kind of giving up the ability to have any of those other transport vehicles and things like that. But once safely on the ground, Ranger will follow and protect you, even put your life above their own. You'll also be able to issue orders such as scouting a location, having them return to follow you, and if a situation becomes dire, you can tell Ranger to self-destruct, and then you have to go John Wick on your opponents because they caused your favorite dog to die, and then you just go wipe the squad. That's how it goes in my mind. Then it gives you several new interesting tactical options, such as do you send Ranger into the line of fire, or maybe as a decoy in order to flank the enemy. Your choices are critical, as Ranger is a light unit designed for anti-infantry combat, but can also be knocked out by enemy fire, explosives, or EMP. And yes, before you ask, you can place a C5 explosive on Ranger and send him into an enemy squad, possibly also a tank. We appreciate your service, Ranger, and we look forward to seeing you on the battlefield. Then they go into talk about maps a little bit. We can expect 7 new maps at launch for All Out Warfare, which is, you know, your normal modes. They talk a little bort about clustering and sectors, how to optimize gameplay and conquest. And what they talk about here is pretty much that they want to cause hot zones on the map. So combat's going to be centered around these regions on the map, and then there's going to be kind of a little bit of a dead space in between where you're going to traverse with usually vehicles and things like that to determine what spots on the map you want to fight and what spots you want to take to keep it, they say, to keep it more fluid and things like that. So there's not a whole lot in there. Optimization is the difference between 64 and 128 players. Just basically talking about last gen and current gen consoles, how everything is pretty much the same. All that stuff is going to be in there, just except the player counts. So they want to ensure that everyone gets the best possible experience possible. And then another question a lot of people have had: can you fight on every floor of skyscrapers? Essentially no, but you can expect lobby and rooftop combat, which can be accessed via elevators and zip lines. Fighting on all levels of skyscraper would be an entire map of its own. This prevents distracting from the rest of the map. So what they're saying is the reason you can't fight on all the floors of the skyscraper is because if you think about that area spread over the whole map, there could almost be as much area in the skyscrapers as the rest of the map. People would get lost in there and you can never find each other. That does make sense to me. It also talks about in the next question that they are increasing the out of bounds area for vehicles, for airplanes, jets, helicopters, things like that. You're going to be able to go farther before you get that out of bounds warning. And then will there be more maps? This is what I'm wanting to know. They talked about the 7, but they say in the addition of further maps through our live servers, but that's not all we have to share about maps. Tune in to EA Play on July 22nd. You guys can watch it on this channel if you want to. We'll be watching it together and talking about what is going on. Vehicles are more easily accessed. They talk about vehicles. We mentioned the importance of balancing your loadout. As infantry, this boils down to how you engage with a vehicle, how you help others to do so more effectively, or how you stop the enemy from destroying too many of your own team's tanks. When in a vehicle, the situation about providing recon to your gunner, triggering defenses, or even knowing when to hit the gas and boost off to freedom. So they're talking about within the vehicle, there's several different seats. We saw that with the little descriptions in the gameplay trailer. When you're in a vehicle, you're going to have an explicit job, whether that's a spotter, gunner, driver, or something like that. Then it talks about, it gives details about how you call in systems, or excuse me, the call-in system for vehicles, how that works. It's dependent on map mode. We'll have a specific budget assigned to each team. So there's a number of vehicles that each team can have on a map at once, which makes a lot of sense. You still spawn in the air vehicles such as aircraft and helicopters from the deploy screen. So you'll spawn while you're flying. There's no takeoff or anything. Once you call in a vehicle, you incur a cooldown, so everyone has a fair chance to call in support. So if you're a squad, you need to get to one part of the map, but you called in a vehicle just recently, you might have to wait on a cooldown so other squads have a chance to get the vehicles they need to get to the spots on the map that they can. It sounds talking about all this vehicle stuff, spawns, cooldowns, moving around the map, clusters, gets me very excited. I think the conquest and breakthrough, things like that are going to be bigger than we've ever seen. I think it's going to play a lot different with these sizes of maps and player counts. I think it's going to be something that we've never experienced before in Battlefield. I'm very excited. Do factions have their own vehicles? Yes, the iconic vehicles you come to know and love will still be faction specific. The NOPATS task force will follow that you will follow in Battlefield 2042 will team up with either Russia or the US depending on location in the world. This means that you will get to utilize either iconic Russian or US hardwares as you go into battle. So they are going to be faction specific vehicles. Will there be naval vehicles in sea warfare? You can expect to see naval-oriented field vehicles such as the hovercraft. However, there isn't a focus on naval-specific warfare right now. We've seen your comments about how excited you are about naval warfare, so stay in touch with us about what you'd like to see in the future. So it appears now there's no plans for naval warfare that they're commenting on this time. So that is a little bit of a disappointment for a lot of fans. AI soldiers, this is another hot topic that people have been wanting to know about. And basically, multiplayer AI soldiers are used for server filling capabilities, making it easier for you to matchmake when you want to play. Players will always have priority over AI when multiplayer. Co-op, there's a co-op mode with against AI soldiers, and if you wish to perfect your skills for multiplayer alone, you can play solo in an entire AI soldier populated server. It talks a little bit about the specifics on how the AI soldiers will play. They cannot use trait and specialists, so they're going to be just generic US or Russian soldiers. We saw that in the trailer. That's what we expected. They do have intelligence to know when to engage via enemy fire, flanking, throwing grenades, or even reviving a downed squad mate. So I think that's actually pretty interesting that they can revive a downed squad mate. You might be able to get revived by AI soldiers when your friends run off and leave you, which is pretty cool. Can you completely opt out of using AI soldiers? Essentially, they say no. If there are 100, for an example, if there are 128 players out of, or excuse me, if there are 120 players out of 128 currently playing, AI soldiers will join the match to help even out the team. Should a player leave, another AI soldier will temporarily replace them until a new player joins the game. So yeah, they're going to be placeholders to keep servers full. That's nothing new. It basically asks, since there are AI soldiers in solo mode, can you play offline? And they say no. Even though you're the only player in a server, it is still an online environment. And then it talks about the technical play test. Then the last thing I do believe, which was very, very, very interesting to me, was the crossplay. Alongside crossplay, we're also building cross progression and cross commerce for Battlefield 2042, which will be shared across all platforms to travel with you wherever you go, which is like Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Cold War. Any progression you make is carried on to wherever your account signed in, regardless of platform. I think that's really good. But they say they're still building crossplay functionality, and this first opportunity for us to test it with a wider invite-only group will be within the technical playtest. Right now, we like to give you an understanding of what we're looking to achieve as final functionality beyond the technical playtest. So here's an overview of what that can expect to look like. PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PS5 consoles. PC and console can opt out from playing together. That's really big and important. A lot of people want that. So essentially, PC and current gen consoles can crossplay, and then the past gen Xbox One and PS4 consoles can crossplay. So there's going to be essentially two groups of players, it looks like, but they're really working on getting that involved. I thought it would be a little bit farther along than that, but they talk about it here. And also they talk about how the beta is not going to be the full experience. Yeah, that's common. We know that. So then I believe that is about it. He talks about making penguins, if you guys want to check that out. That doesn't have much to do with gameplay, so I'm not going to talk about that here too much. Essentially, the next info we're going to get is next week, guys, on this channel. If you want to watch with me, we'll be checking out EA Play, where we are expected to hear a lot about that redacted mode, which is allegedly the Battlefield hub with fan favorite maps making a return. So anyway, guys, I'll leave the link to this in the description if you guys haven't seen it from the Battlefield Twitter. I just wanted to talk about it with you guys a little bit because it clarifies a lot of little questions that we had. I think it was a really, really good article, and I encourage you guys to check it out. And yeah, that's all I had for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.